Hey everybody, welcome to GMG Review. Today I'm taking a look at Warhammer Age of Sigmar Broken Realms, Part 1, Morathi. So, first impressions. Well, this is very reminiscent of the Vigilus campaign books and Psychic Awakening for Warhammer 40k. So if you're a Warhammer Age of Sigmar player and you aren't familiar with those books, what they effectively were at the end of 8th edition were kind of like patches and hot fixes and expanded rules for factions, printed with a storyline and a campaign in general. Because I mean, obviously, games always need tune-ups. Books come out, they expand the selection of units, things become more powerful, less powerful, and as time goes on, certain armies tend to be less successful maybe than newer armies, as like the power advantage kind of goes up and up and up and up. So Morathi takes a look at several different armies, mostly focused on the Forces of Order here, although there is some addition to the Forces of Chaos, in the form of new rules for the Cities of Sigmar, Stormcast Eternals, the Daughters of Khaine, the Idoneth Deepkin, and the Slaves to Darkness, giving them some stuff sort of in context with the story of Morathi's ascension to godhood. So she's proclaimed herself, she's doing a giant ritual to proclaim herself basically the incarnate of Khaine, the god of murder in the mortal realms. And that's cool. We get a whole bunch of sort of like background for how that's happening. She kind of betrays the Forces of Order and starts killing a whole bunch of people because, you know, Khaine requires sacrifice, breaks up Anvilgard and kind of splits the city in half, and there's some people that are still loyal to her, but a whole lot of the Order Serpentis goes with her too. Anyway, it's bad. And so we get a bunch of battle plans that reflect that and a bunch of new battle tome updates. And the rules for the Broken Realms, which is where she's basically trying to, or she has succeeded now in her ascension to godhood, or demi-godhood. It's divided into 3 acts: the Blood of Khaine, the Rise of a Goddess, and now Anvilgard in Darkness, where the city gets blown up. And hey, who's taking part in this? Well, there's the leaders of the Great Powers: Morathi, Sigmar, Alarielle, and Slaanesh. And then the Stormcast Eternals have their own special characters. The Idoneth do as well. And the Daughters of Khaine, the Scourge Privateers, the Force of Chaos, the Defenders of Anvilgard, and the Black Scale Coil, which is the Mathuse, the snake folks for the follow along with Morathi. And it's a neat storyline. She's basically, you know, they've got Slaanesh all chained up. Here's a cool picture of Slaanesh all chained up. So if you're ever wondering what that looks like, now there's Slaanesh getting all the elves sucked out of them, because, you know, they're still trying to rescue all the elf souls that got eaten by Slaanesh. And Morathi's not happy with her sort of like part of that pact. And you got here Varanthax's Maw, which of course is the setting for the new Catacombs expansion for Warcry. A cool map of it, which I think is really neat. And what she's looking for, which is Khaine's blood. The whole quest line that my Khainite Shadowstalkers went on, of course, was to get that stuff. It's a cool sort of like unobtainium that she's after to try and aid in her ascension to godhood. In the background for Morathi and what she's doing. The Varanite, the Molten Realm Stone. So this is the stuff that you're trying to get out of Varanthax's Maw. The Khainite Shadowstalkers, there's more background for them. And then Sigmar ain't into it. He gets mad, of course. There's some treachery and some war between all these characters. And the Slaanesh, she's of course trying to now rescue Slaanesh from their imprisonment. And that's the new 2-player starter set coming along as well. Volturnus not being excited about what's going on. And then, of course, the City of Scoundrels Misthaven with the Scourge Privateers dealing with that. And so as we go through, the ritual basically succeeds, and Morathi becomes the incarnate of Khaine. Lots of cool, more background for those cities. And if you're a big fan of the Mortal Realms and they're sort of expanding that universe and giving it more personality, this is a great book. I think the first almost 100 pages, yeah, so the first 79 pages are, sorry, 69 pages? 70 pages? 70 pages are dedicated to this whole story of like the escape of Slaanesh. So Slaanesh has now escaped. You can see here the newborn screamed across the sky as it erupted basically from its imprisonment. Morathi ritual basically setting it free and aiding in her ascension to godhood, and the Hedonites freaking out. And just like what's going on in those cities too, like Anvilgard and Misthaven, they're cool little side stories into the greater sort of like scheme of like gods and mortals. And yeah, if you're a fan of that, then jump in. The next section is the rules. It's all battle plans, so playing the campaign. Now, you do need several different armies to play, either as the Force of Morathi or the enemy player. So if the one player would need to own Morathi's army, a Stormcast army, Daughters of Khaine, then Brecht's Stormcast army, and then an Insurrectionist army from Anvil Guard, so a Sigmar army. And then the enemy player would need to be able to play Slaves of Darkness, Deepkin, Beastmasters, and Anvil Guard. So, I mean, you gotta have access to some minis to play this like to its full, or have a whole bunch of different players with different armies playing as the different characters, and they're forming teams. But the Broken Realms campaign rules basically give you all of the realms of battle to play in, and then all 3 acts you get your battle plans for doing them. So it's cool. It takes you through the story basically to the fall of Anvil Guard and Morathi's ascension. And then what do we got? We got the Battle Tomes updates. Okay, so here's the meat and potatoes of it. So 6 updates to 6 different battle tomes. Sorry, 5 different battle tomes. I guess if you don't count. No, it's just 5 different battle tomes. That's right. Daughters of Khaine, Cities of Sigmar, Stormcast Eternals, Idoneth Deepkin, and Slaves of Darkness. Now, all of these are older. Idoneth, I don't think even have a. They have a 1st edition codex. They were one of the first new format 1st edition Age of Sigmar battle tomes, and so they are one of the older battle tomes right now. Daughters of Khaine are also fairly old too, but they did come out in 2nd edition, I believe. And then Cities and Stormcast were both early 2nd edition battle tomes. Stormcast being one of the first, obviously, because it was Stormcast and Night Haunts. And so this is very true to form for these types of campaign books, where they're updating certain units that might not fight the best or get used very often in games, and bring it up to speed. So what do we have for the Daughters of Khaine? Well, we got the Zainthar Kai. You can just say it's a Zainthar Kai army when you pick your Daughters of Khaine army now, so that's your allegiance. If you do so, it has access to the Temple of Khaine rules at the bottom of this page, so you get this, and you can include these Warscroll battalions. So no new units except for one. You get Morathi Khaine. This is the new Morathi. So if you're using Morathi Khaine, you're using this now for 600 points, and you're part of this Daughters of Khaine army. But any army can use Morathi Khaine now, any Daughters of Khaine army. So you get Khaine's Essence, add 1 to the bravery characteristics of Zainthar Kai Malusai and Harpies, so Kinray Harpies. So they all get +1 bravery. They get Vault of the First Brood. You get extra artifact power, just for being part of this battle tome, but it has to be taken from the Gifts of Morathi. So a bonus relic or artifact. And then your command abilities are Power and Blood. You can use this command ability once per phase when you pick a friendly Zainthar Kai Malusai unit or friendly Zainthar Kai Harpies unit to fight, and they're wholly within 12 of Zainthar Kai Hero. If you do so, add 1 of their attack characteristic of melee weapons. So your big stabby sisters, snake ladies can get +1, and so can your more sort of like hit and runny Harpies. And then your command trait, Curse of the Bloody-Handed. At the end of the combat phase, roll a die for each enemy within 3 of the general. On a 5+, they take D3 mortal wounds. So each unit, if you're engaged with a bunch of different units, you can do an exploding 5+ mortal wounds. And then you got 3 new Warscroll battalions that are only available to the Zainthar Kai. So you've got the Viperic Guard. It has to include Morathi Khaine and the Shadow Queen, which are the 2-part single model now for Morathi. 1 to 2 Bloodrock Medusae or Medusae Iron Scales. Now, we don't know what the Iron Scales is. I believe you'll probably get that War Scroll in the new 2-player starter box. I'm not sure what an Iron Scale is, but it seems to be like the new just hero class Medusae. And then 2 to 3 Blood Sisters or Bloodstalkers units in any combination. So once per battle, a hero from this battalion can use a command ability without spending a command point. It's basically just a free command point. Sweet. It costs... It costs 140 points for a free command point. Yeah. I don't know about that one. I mean, it gets you a free relic too, I guess. So you get another artifact too. So it's 140 points for an artifact and the ability to use a command ability without a command point. And then you get the Scathe Coven. It's a Bloodrock Medusae or Medusae Iron Scale, 1 to 4 Blood Sisters, 1 to 2 Bloodstalkers, and 0 to 2 units of Kinray Harpies. So this would be the one that box set will make, that little 2-player starter set. You get the Devoted Morathi, so no battle shock test for units in this battalion. So you get an artifact, and for an additional 140 points, you also gain, so you gain the ability to not take battle shock tests. Now, those aren't usually going to be bigger than 5-person units anyway. I don't know, again, if that's that's really worth it. So if you're taking more than, like the maximum you take of the 5-man unit is a +4. You're already +1 bravery. And I think you're bravery 7 on Bloodstalkers and Bloodsisters anyway, so you'd lose someone on a 1 to 4. Yeah, it feels unlikely that that's going to be, where is it, Bloodstalkers. Bloodsisters bravery 8, sorry, so you'd be bravery 9. So if you lost 4, you need to roll a 6 to fail. Yeah, I don't know why, I don't know. Just take 5-person units, and that doesn't seem worth it either. And then Warscroll Battalion Shrine Brood. 2 Bloodrock Shrines, 2 Bloodsister units or Bloodstalker units, any combination, and 2 Khaine Harpies units. This one's in your hero phase. You can pick any number of units from the battalion that are within 6 of the Bloodrock Shrine from the same battalion. 1 model from each unit that you pick is slain. You can heal a wound allocated to the Bloodrock Shrine for each Khaine Harpy model you slay, and up to 2 wounds allocated to Bloodrock Shrine for each Melusai model you slay. So you can sacrifice your Harpies to heal back wounds on the Bloodrock Shrines. But it's only Bloodrock Shrines, not the big, whatchamacallits, the big sisters. So I mean, built-in healing, but you cost points to do it? I don't know. Again, I don't like anything where I have to trade models to get wounds back. That doesn't seem as good. But anyway, here's the big enchilada. This is the new Warscroll Battalion. That's what everyone's looking at. This is Morathi Khaine, the Shadow Queen. So, used to be with Morathi, obviously, you started as the little Morathi, and you turn into big Morathi at any time, basically, and you can only take so many number of wounds, but the wounds transferred in the new model. Not so much anymore. Now you're just always both on the table. The Shadow Queen is the evil reflection of Morathi's hate and spite, and this is Morathi Khaine as her incarnate form. So what's the big difference? Well, the big difference is the 1 soul, 2 bodies rule here. If the Shadow Queen's in the battlefield, wounds and mortal wounds that would be allocated to this model go to the Shadow Queen instead. Once again, the Shadow Queen has the Iron Heart of Khaine. She can only take 3 wounds during any given turn. So she has 12 wounds. It takes her 2 battle rounds basically to die if you max out wounds on her. If a rule or ability would kill this model or this model, they take 3 wounds instead. So Blade of Realities isn't going to just knock you off the table. But you both start on the table all the time, which means your awesome caster, your wizard with 3 spells that can attempt to cast 3 and unbind 2 is always on the table. And they get +1 to casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls. And they know Black Horror Volgu, which is an amazing 36-inch range, cast on 7, roll a d6 for a visible enemy unit. I don't know, 1 to take a mortal wound, 2 to 3 it's d3, 4 plus d6 mortal wound. So just a kablam mortal wound shot. That's still there. Worship the Bloodshed, still the same. Pick a Daughters of Khaine within 24 and make them fight. Hooray! Still very cool. Can only be used once on each unit. Sorry, can only be used once per command phase now. So you can still make the Shadow Queen spin around and keep fighting and stuff. But the big deal is now they're both on the table all at the same time, and she's effectively immortal because the wounds always go to her. But when the Shadow Queen dies, Morathi Khaine dies. So as soon as the Shadow Queen's dead, Morathi Khaine is killed. She has 6 wounds, I'm pretty sure, just for the things like Crushing Grips. Anytime you have to roll equal to or higher than a model's wound value, it needs to have a wound value. So even though she can't actually take any wounds or die, and she just dies when the Shadow Queen dies, that stat's still important for certain in-game effects like Stuff in a Sack or Pulverizing Grip or the Gaping Maw and the Star Drake and stuff like that too. And that's the big thing. The other big thing is she has Commanding Presence now. She's -1 to hit all the time, so it is a little bit harder to attack Morathi Khaine, especially if she's near a friendly unit of 3 models or more. She'll be -2 to hit with shooting, which is a big deal. And that's really it for her. She's got Heartrender for 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3+3+, -1d3 damage, so she's still no slouch. And Bladed Wings, 2-inch range, 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 damage. 4+ save, 6 wounds, not that it matters because they all go onto the Shadow Queen, who again caps out at 3. Move 6 inches, bravery 8. So an interesting tactic with this would be to have Morathi Khaine fight, actually try and get hurt, be hard to hurt, but go into something terrifying while you send the Shadow Queen into big hordes of stuff. Because she just stops getting damaged at some point, and she's actually harder to damage than Shadow Queen is because of that -1 to hit. So you actually want Morathi Khaine to be the one soaking the shots a little bit, because she's the one that's the hardest one to damage, and have the Shadow Queen go and punish weaker stuff. Because as soon as Morathi Khaine's taken 3 damage, if she's soaking up the rest of the damage and making it hard to hit, then the Shadow Queen's just immune to damage walking around. She's taking her 3 wounds for the turn. Now, the other downside is the Shadow Queen can never be healed anymore. Wounds allocated to this model cannot be healed, period. So That's it. Once those 12 wounds are gone, she's done. So no Emerald Life Storming her back to life and stuff either. Other bonus things, so I've described Morathi Khaine. The Shadow Queen's other stuff, obviously your weapons are awesome. Gaze of the Shadow Queen, 18-inch range, 2+2+, -3 d6 damage, one shot. Heartrender's got a 2-inch range. She's got 8 attacks at the beginning, 3s and 3s, -2, 3 damage. So she can do 24 damage with Heartrender. Crown of Serpents is 2d6, 3s and 3s, just 1 damage attacks with no rend, 1-inch range. And the Envenomed Tail is a 3-inch range, 1 attack, 3s and 3s, -2, does flat 6 damage in the beginning, which is pretty rad. She flies. She can't be your general. Morathi's automatically your general on top of your normal general. You get a double general, which is kind of cool, actually. As far as, she doesn't get an extra relic or command trait, but she is treated as general in addition to the model being chosen, which means I guess technically you would get a second command trait, I think. 2 command traits, although she doesn't get one because she's a special character, so you get the one on the general you pick. And she gets to use ranges for like all attack and all defense as if she was general too, which is pretty cool. She flies, obviously. I think I just said that. She has Fury of the Shadow Queen. While this model is within 3 inches of any enemy models, add 1 attack characteristic of Kinray Harpies and Melusa units, wholly within 18. So she riles up all the snake folks and harpies. And that's it. Ironheart of Khaine, just the 3 wounds thing is the same, but she can't be healed anymore. Although maybe she could be healed before. Maybe she couldn't be healed before either. I can't remember, honestly. I didn't play Morathi. I didn't play against Morathi enough, but I just know that that's a huge deal. So, 600 points. I think that just having them both be on the table all the time now is worth it, because you're still risk managing the way you were risk managing before, but you don't have to wait for the benefits. The Shadow Queen can go out and fight, and Morathi can do her awesome magic thing all the time. And for 600 points, that's what you'd want to have. And then you're still guaranteed 2 turns of life, basically. And you don't tend to take a lot of shooting damage in the first battle round, so I feel like you're going to be okay. The ability to stay alive for at least 2 battle rounds, probably 3 if you're not taking any damage in the first turn, or the first battle round, makes this a pretty solid 600 point investment. All right, Seas of Sigmar, what do you get? Well, Broken Realms, a time of change. When you pick the Seas of Sigmar Allegiance for your army, you can say it'll be a Broken Realms army, which means that, Invilgard's exploded. If a model already has a city keyword in its Warscroll, it can't gain another one, but you can use the following Allegiance abilities, either Misthaven or Harkuron. The army is still considered to be a Seas of Sigmar army and can use the Ways of the Free People battle traits unless stated otherwise. You can still choose Anvilgard Allegiance for Seas of Sigmar. If you do, the army represents either a force from the time before Morathi or a loyalist attachment still fighting in the God King's name. So you can still be Anvilgard and be Broken Realms, but you're going to pick these additional keywords. So you're stuck to these 2 keywords for being Broken Realms, which is Misthaven and Harkuron. And so Kraith's Shadow Host is one of your Warscroll battalions. And this is the Sorcerer Drusa Kraith's personal warhost. It's a Sorceress on a Black Dragon, a Dread Spear unit, and a Darkshire unit, and it automatically becomes this Sorceress, Drusa Kraith, who gets these abilities. All units from this battalion must have either the Anvilgard keyword there or the Harkuron keyword. So Anvilgard or Harkuron. So Subjugated, in your hero phase, if the Sorceress from this battalion is on the battlefield, you can declare she'll compel her minions to attack savagely. If you do, until the next hero phase, add 1 of the attack characteristic of weapons by Dread Spears and Dark Shards, but they're -1 to save rolls. That's pretty cool. And it's attack characteristic of weapons, so it's also your guns, but you're -1 to save, because you're just firing blindly, apparently. And then in command traits, the Whispers, at the start of the first hero phase, you get an extra command point. And that one's going to cost you, Kraith's Shadow Host, that one's going to cost you 160 points. Kind of cool if you're just going to, you only get 1 Dark Shards unit, so you need to make it huge. Like, you need your units to be huge to have them really benefit from this. But a free command point, a free relic, or artifact, it's neat. And then your Misthaven battle traits, command traits, and narcotics, because you're going to get some drugs and artifacts power. You're the Shadow Ports, you're automatically from Olgu, no taking any stuff from anywhere else. You have underhanded tactics. Instead of setting up a friendly Misthaven, Order, Serpentis, Shadowblades, or Scourge Privateer unit, with up to 10 models in the battlefield, you can place it to one side and put it in reserve. You can set up 1 unit of flanking force for each Darkling Coven's, Free Guild, or Dwarven unit already set up in the battlefield. At the end of each of your movement phases, you can set up 1 or more flanking units on the battlefield, more than 9 from enemy units. At the start of the 4th battle round, you're destroyed otherwise. So basically, you get to deep strike in some units that are either Order Serpentis, Shadowblades, or Scourge Privateers. And then Misthaven Narcotics. A hero from a Misthaven army can have a Misthaven Narcotic. Choose which hero will have the narcotic, and then pick for or roll opposite. You can choose an additional friendly hero to have one for each Warscroll battalion in your army. So it's like an extra artifact, basically, that you're going to get to give people. A hero cannot have more than one. In your hero phase, you can declare that they'll use it. Each narcotic can be used once per battle and has no effect on the amount. So you take the fun poppers. And then Shadow Strike. You can use this command ability once per turn after you set up a flanking force unit wholly within 12 of a friendly hero. If you do so, it moves 2d6, but it cannot run. So that's neat. If you have a hero nearby, they get to move d6, which means they could end up closer than 9. That's pretty cool. And then Unscrupulous Despots for your general. You get Shadow Lord. Once per battle round, you can use Shadow Strike command ability without using a command point. So you can do this one basically without any CPs being spent. Wily Foe. So like basically what that means is if you have a hero, you can advance them. Then at the end of your movement phase, you can spend no CP, bring in a big fat unit of like Order Serpentis guys, like knights, and then d6 them forward. So they show up outside of 9, and then you roll d6. They can be like just outside of 3, and then charge them in. So you can just be like, surprise, and drop knights on people. Wily Foe, roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to the general. On a 6, that wound or mortal wound is negated. Meh. And then Shade Warlock, this general knows Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and cast a spell, and dispel a spell. So they become a wizard, basically. But I think, like, if you're going to play into the gimmick, you play Shadow Lord as your general ability, and then you just keep big fat units of the knights in reserve, so they can't get shot across the table. You get your general up there, and then you start popping them out, basically, to jump on people. Your narcotics. The Sinesthalcum. When this narcotic is used, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by the user. The Witch Mist. Until your next hero phase, ignore modifiers when making save rolls. That's pretty cool. Skiffer's Salve. When the narcotic's used, you can heal to d6 wounds. But you cannot run or charge. So when you're already in combat, basically, you want to use that one. Float. Until the next hero phase, you can fly. Has no effect on your mount, though. Sorry, if you have a mount. The Sawfang Dust. When this narcotic's used until the next hero phase, each time a user fights, after all the attacks have been resolved, you can pick an enemy within 1 on a 4+ take d3 mortal wounds. And then Glatch Ink. When this narcotic's used until the next hero phase, you can add 1 to casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls for the user. So some neat buffs for all the different character types. Artifacts of Power, the Gloom Bell. Once per battle at the start of the enemy shooting phase, you can say that the bearer will ring the Gloom Bell. If you do this, subtract -1 to hit rolls for attacks targeting units wholly within 12 of the bearer. Strangler Kelp Noose. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can pick an enemy model within 3 of the bearer and roll a die. If the roll is a 6 or less, the target's wing characteristic. Sorry, is 6 or less than the target's wing characteristic, they can attack in the combat phase. If the roll is 6 or less than the target's wing characteristic. Interesting. And then Shadow Silk Armor, I 1 to save rolls. That's pretty cool too. And then Harkuron. These are the Morathi trustees, basically. Harkuron army cannot use the Ways of the Free People's battle trait. In addition, Harkuron army can only include units from the following keywords: Darkling Covens, Order Serpentis, Scourge Privateers, and Shadowblades. So the other one, you can still mix in humans and stuff. This one's just the elves, basically. It's almost a Dark Elf army from old Warhammer. So it's automatically from Akshi, Realm of Fire. And then Temples of Khaine, 1 every 4 units in a Harkuron army can be a Daughters of Khaine unit. So you blend this with the Daughters of Khaine. In addition, each of your hero phases, and they gain cities of Sigmar and Harkuron keywords. In addition, each of your hero phases, you can pick a friendly Daughter of Khaine priest to attempt the Incitement of Murder prayer. If it's successful, pick a friendly Harkuron unit wholly within 12 of the priest. Until the start of your next hero phase, the unmodified hit rolls for an attack made by this unit's a 6. The attack score is 2 hits and target instead of 1. Make a wound and save roll for each hit. You cannot pick the same unit to benefit from this prayer more than once per phase. And then command ability, make an example of the weak. This champion mercilessly cuts down a faltering underling. Use this in the start of the battle shock phase. Pick a friendly Harkuron unit wholly within 12. 1 model slain. However, you do not need to make battle shock tests for Harkuron units wholly within 18 of that unit. So you just kill somebody, make an example of them, and then no more battle shock tests for you, which is pretty sweet. Command traits, Bathed in Blood. You get an extra wound. In addition, you can heal a wound each hero phase of your hero phases. Murderous Zeal. The general can attempt to incite murder in the same way as a priest. If it already can do that, it can do it twice instead of just once. And then Dark Adept, you basically become a wizard. And no Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield. You get your artifacts of power, Life Taker. In your shooting phase, pick an enemy unit within 36 of the bear and roll a die. On a 3 to 5, take a mortal wound. On a 6, they take D3 mortal wounds. The Trader's Banner, -1 to attack rolls, to hit rolls for attacks by missile weapons. The target friendly is wholly within 12. And Nullstone Vizard. If the bear's in the battlefield, it's ready hero phase, roll a 5+, get a command point. And then there's 6 new spells, Sap Strength. So if you took Dark Adept, you'd be a Harkuron wizard, and you'd also get one of these spells. Cast on 6. If cast, pick an enemy unit with an 18. Subtract -1 to hit rolls for attacks made by that unit until your next hero phase. Withering, casting value of 7. If cast, pick a enemy unit with an 18 and the caster invisible until the next wound phase. Add 1 to wound rolls that target that unit. And then Vitriolic Spray. This one's gross. Cast on 8. Pick an enemy within 6 of the caster invisible. Until the start of your next hero phase, their save characteristic becomes dash. What? What? Oh, sorry, 3+ save, guys. Your save is dash. That's not a positive or negative modifier either, so that can be used on anything, really, because it changes their stat. It's just a change their save characteristic to dash. That's madness. Although they'll probably be arguing as to whether or not it's a modifier, but it's not a positive or negative modifier, so I don't think it is something that the ghosts can stop. Seed of Shadows, cast on 6. The next hero phase, the caster can fly and has a move characteristic of 16. Pit of Shades, cast on 7. If cast, pick an enemy unit with an 18 and the caster invisible. Roll 2d6 versus their movement. For every point higher, take a mortal wound. And then Shadow Daggers, cast on 7. Pick an enemy unit with a 9 and the caster invisible. They take d6 mortal wounds. That is a crazy spell lore. That is a really good spell lore. And then we're into Stormcast Eternals. Okay, so this is Make Liberators Great Again, the update. Basically, instead of using the normal allegiance abilities for Stormcast Eternals, you can make it a Stormkeep battle trait instead and become Celestial Sentinels. So you can just choose to be Celestial Sentinels instead of the normal Living Tempest battle traits. It's like a whole new block, and you replace it all with this. They can still all be from a Storm Host, so you can pick one of the Storm Hosts, but you gain the following rules. Shield of Civilization. Add 1 to the bravery characteristic of all friendly Stormcast Eternal units while they're wholly within 12 of any friendly Liberators. In addition, at the end of your movement phase, you can pick any friendly Liberators that did not move and were not set up that phase to say they will stand fast. Add +1 to hit rolls and +1 to save rolls. So, my cheapo Liberators now, all of their problems with their hammers hitting on 4s and the fact you almost never proc Layla the Tyrants because you have to have 5 wounds exactly or more, they hit on 3s now. So yay, all my Grand Hammers hit on 3s, all my hammers hit on 3s. And because I built my hammer guys with hammers, I'm excited about that. What I'm more excited about is my Warding Lantern 2+ rerolling 1s Sigmarite shield saves that I'm all of a sudden going to have. That's bananas. It gets more bananas in a second too from the Storm Tower Garrison. Mortal Auxiliaries, 1 in every 4 unit in a Stormkeep army can be a Cities of Sigmar unit. Add 1 to bravery characteristic of those units while they're wholly within 12 of a friendly Liberator unit. In addition, when you pick a unit to benefit from a command ability from Battletome Stormcast Eternals, you can treat them as Stormcast Eternal units. Well, that's pretty cool. Lord Celestine's attack abilities affect them. Any command trait, basically, from that book will affect them as if they were Stormcast Eternals. So we open up all the shooting stuff from the Dwarden. We open up some knights, like cheapo knights, like the Order of Cronus stuff. We open up all kinds of stuff, and it's 1 in 4. So that's pretty cool. And again, Liberators make them better. So Warscrolls Battalions, and they're not stupid expensive. They're not inexpensive, but the abilities are pretty good here. The first one's the Wardens of the Stormkeep. So the idea is that these are all garrison troops, not crusading troops. You need a Lord Celestine, so it doesn't care if it's on a Dracoth or not, or other mount. 2 to 5 other Stormcast Eternal heroes. This battalion can only be included in a Stormkeep army. It cannot have any monsters, so no Star Drakes. Your ability is Watchful Commander. At the start of your first hero phase, roll a die for each hero in the battalion. Add 3 if the hero is your general. On a 5+, get a command point. So up to 6 rolls for extra command points. Holy crap, you'd be drowning in command points, because one of them's on a 2+, the rest are on 5+. The Warscroll Battalion, then Storm Tower Garrison. This is the one you're going to kind of build your army around if you're going to do this, because it's awesome. 1 Knight Vexilor, so you have to have either Meteor Call guy or Redeploy guy. He's cheap though. 2 to 4 Liberator units, 1 to 2 Paladin units, and 1 to 2 Justicar units. So Judicators, any of the bajillion different Paladin types, Liberators, and Knight Vexilors. You can only use them in a Stormkeep army though, so no using this in the normal one. This one you could use in the normal Stormcast book. Your ability is Brothers in Arms. Paladin and Justicar units from this battalion that are wholly within 12 of any Liberator units from the same battalion can use the Shield of Civilization rules and stand fast in the same manner as Liberators. Oh my god. So now all of my Protectors and my Retributors can stand fast and go to crazy level save and also get +1 to their bravery because they're within range of themselves. So that's pretty great. And also that +1 hit, that's for shooting too. So now all of my Adjudicators hit on 2s. My Adjudicator Prime hits on 1s. I mean, still on 2s because you fail on a 1, but mods to hit, all of a sudden ignored. Just for not moving. And how often do I want my shooters to move anyway with a 24-inch range? Not super often. It's 160 points. You're going to get a free artifact with it. You're going to get all of that ability added to your Paladins Justicars as well. That's pretty great. I mean, run the first turn, stand still for the rest of the game if you have to, and just pound people with fire and have amazing saves. If you can get on the objectives, I mean, you can't Deep Strike in because this replaces all the stuff for Living Tempest, but still pretty awesome. And then Stormkeep Patrol, this is one we've seen, I think it's probably a start collecting box for. It's a Lord Verdant, one Gryph-hound unit, 2 Redeemer or Justicar units, so either Castigators or Adjudicators. It's only a Stormkeep army. Ever Vigilant, after armies are set up before the first battle round begins, you can remove these units from the battlefield. If you do so, you must set them up, then set up the Lord Verdant from the battalion anywhere in the battlefield more than 9 from the enemy, and the rest of the units more than within 12 of him and more than 9 from the enemy. So basically, you pick that whole thing up and stick it wherever you want, not within 9 of the enemy. So you can just jump on an objective. And that's actually not a terrible thing for that ability to go and grab a objective. And that patrol is 130, the garrison's 160, and the Stormkeep Brotherhood, the character one, is only 60 points. So 60 points, and the characters you're taking anyway give you an extra bunch of command points. Like that one, we're definitely going to see in every army, even the other ones, because it's not locked to Stormkeep. Stormkeep Brotherhood, so this one is the bigger one for bigger games. It requires a Wardens of the Stormkeep Warscroll, 3+ garrisons, 1+ patrol, and 0 to 3 from any of the other ones from the big book. And it's Defenders of the Faithful, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by models from this Warscroll battalion that target enemies that are wholly or partially in your territory. So the closer they get to you, +1 to wound. That's pretty cool. But I mean, it's for huge games. You're not probably going to see it very often. And then Van Breck's Black Watch is a bespoke version of the other one. This is the one that you can see the block set's made with. It's Kaiser Van Brecht, a Gryph-hound unit, 1 to 2 Adjudicator units, and 1 Castigator unit. It has to be part of the Anvils of the Heldenhammer. And they get the Ever Vigilant rule, plus his command trait is Fiend Slayer. When you use this General Sanction ability, you can pick an enemy Chaos or Death hero instead of an enemy Wizard. In addition, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this general to target a vampire. So it's a cool, just story-driven one. All right, we're into Idoneth Deepkin. So first thing first, again, this is one of the oldest current battle tomes. You're going to get mount traits. So 3 different mount traits for Leviathans and Deepmares. The first ones are for the Deepmare, and you just get these if you have one of these in your army, basically. It's not an artifact. You get Swiftfoot Impaler. If the roll for this model's Deepmare Horn is 6, it does D6 mortal wounds instead of D3. Savage Ferocity, +1 to its attack characteristic for its jaws and lashing tails. And then Void Chill Darkness is the one I think you probably take. -1 to hit rolls for attacks made by enemy models that are within 3 of this model. So if he's in melee, he's -1 to hit, and you're -1 to hit anybody else too, if you're within 3 of him. And the Leviathan, you get Ancient, ignore rend characteristics of -1. Denizen of the Darkest Depths, add 1 to the number of mortal wounds by its Crushing Charge ability, which means even if you roll at 1 and don't do any, you do 1 mortal wound. And then Reverberating Carapace, I still think this is the one you take. Increase the range of the model's Void Drum ability from 12 inches to 15 inches. Although it's got a better save now, so Ancient is kind of cool too. They're changing the war scrolls for Alopexes. Your Razor Shell Harpoon Launchers, 24-inch range, 4 shots, 3s and 3s, -1/1 damage. The Ready Air Snet Launcher is the big deal though. 18-inch range, 1 attack, 3s and 3s, no rend, but 3 flat damage. But its ability is what's cool. Then your melee weapons, Barbed Hooks and Blades, 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, no rend, 1 damage, and Ferocious Bites, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2, 2 damage. The Ferocious Bite can do 6 damage now, which is pretty legit. It flies. Bloodthirsty Predator, +1 to its attack characteristic of this unit's Ferocious Bites if it's within 3 of any enemy units that have any wounds allocated to them or have had models slain that turn. And then Entangled, A unit that's been hit by any attacks made with a ready resonant launcher cannot make pile-in moves. Not wounded, just hit. So if you just hit with it, it can't pile in, which means these flying 14-inch move charges can go to the edge of a unit that's like way across, charge just the tip of it, and be able to do a whole bunch of damage without having anybody fight back. And if you did do any damage with your shooting that turn, you're also getting +1 to your attack characteristics. So you're getting 7 attacks base and 4 of the bites now, which is, oh sorry, just the first bites. 4 just the first bites, nothing for the barb hooks and blades. So pretty cool. Their point values went to Alapex's 110 points, 1 to 3 in a unit. I think that's worth doing. The entangled rule by itself is pretty cool. And then both Eidolons changed. Core stats stayed the same, move 12 and 10, bravery 10, 12 wounds, 3+ saves, but they're relatively different everywhere else. Both of them fly. Your Spirit of Repressed Fury is 2-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 2s, -2, 2 damage, and your Cruel Hook is 4 attacks, 3s and 2s, -1, 1 damage. The 2+ to wound, well, that's important because Drenched in Hate is just +1 to wound rolls now for attacks made by friendly Deepkin units wholly within 18 of any friendly models with this ability. So it doesn't stack. And it means you're technically wounding on 1s and 3s for the Sharp Fangs ability. But it's just ignoring negative penalties basically to wound now. Crashing on the foe has changed quite a bit. You still heal D3 when you charge. You add 1 to your attack and damage characteristic for the Spirit of Repressed Fury now when you make a charge move, and you can still retreat and charge. So no rerolling 1s anymore. You're just +1 attacks, so 5 attacks, and you're +1 to your damage, so your damage 3 basically. So still pretty good, but you're gonna have to spend the CP now to reroll 1s to hit for all an attack. But he's still a hero, so I mean, why not? Pulling Depths got way better. Just pick a hero with a wound characteristic of 8 or less within 3 and add 1 to hit rolls against it if you target it that phase. So you're hitting on 2s now against heroes, which is pretty great. And then Storm Shoal, roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this model. 5+ is negated. So 5+ wound shrug on the Eidolon. Sweet. The Eidolon and Mathlon got that too. So the Aspect of the Sea rather got that too. So shorter move for him, he gets Blast of Abyssal Energy, 15-inch range, D3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2, 2 damage. And then his Side Tridents, 3 attacks, 2-inch range, 3s and 3s, -2, 2 damage. So it's just a babier version of the spear. Deep Sea Scepters, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 1 damage. So again, a baby version of the Cruel Hook. And then Sharp Fangs are the exact same. He flies Dormant Energies. You can re-roll casting, dispelling, unbinding rolls for this model. If you do not re-roll any casting or dispelling ones, you heal D3 with him instead. So if you decide not to re-roll, get a heal. Storm Shoal is the same. Tranquility of the Abyss, +3 to bravery characteristic for Deepkin units, wholly within 18 of friendly models with this ability. And then he can cast 2, unbind 2, and he knows 2 of his own spells. Cloying Sea Mists. Cast on 6, if cast, pick a friendly Deepkin unit, wholly within 12 with the caster invisible. Sorry, just within 12 with caster invisible. Heal D3 units, D3 wounds, but if you pick an enemy unit, do D3 wounds. So it's heal D3 or do D3, depending on if you choose an enemy or a Idoneth Deepkin unit. And then Tsunami of Terror, cast on 7, if cast, pick D6 enemy units within 12 of your caster invisible. Until the next hero phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by those units, and subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of those units. That one's super handy. Moving on to the Achillean Leviathan. So this is the model that I love the most in my army, but it just doesn't see the table time that much. Big changes. Move 10 inches, 16 wounds still, but a degrading save, which kind of makes sense for a turtle, because once the shell gets cracked open, those things are to get pretty downhill pretty fast. And a bravery of 6. Razor Shell Harpoon Launchers changed to 8 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 1 damage, 24-inch range. There was always some argument over the fact that it said 2 Razor Shell Harpoon Launchers and then Razor Shell Harpoon Launchers as the missile weapon name if you shot 2 or not. I just interpreted that you shot 2 because it said you had to. And then now it's just you have 1 set of Razor Shell Harpoon Launchers. Your melee weapons, they combine the riders to just be a 1-inch range, 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 damage. The Massive Scythe Fin now, though, 2-inch range, 4 attacks, 2s and 3s, -1, flat 4 in the beginning, degrades down to 1. And the Crushing Jaws, 2 attacks, hits on 2s in the beginning, 2s to wound, -2, 3 damage. But of course, if you get your 6, you get your Crazy Jaws of Death ability too. It does 3 mortal wounds. And if it's a monster, it does 6 mortal wounds. So if you get double 6, if you roll boxcars on an attack against a monster, you do 12 mortal wounds. Just snap its neck. Which is pretty cool. Now its save starts at 2+ with 0 to 8 wounds, so until it goes to half wounds it has a 2+ save, which means ignoring that run characteristic as your mount trait is not a terrible idea. It goes to 3s when you're down to 11, and the last 5 wounds, 4s and 5s. So As he gets cracked open, obviously, he's not in great shape. But for your first 11 wounds, out of 16, you're going to have a 2+ or at worst 3+ save, which means that that's a decent ability. Now, the Void Drum, however, is a big thing. Add 1 to the save rolls for attacks that target friendly Idoneth Deepkin units with a wound characteristic of 8 or less. So it doesn't affect the Eidolons, doesn't affect other Leviathans or himself. That are wholly within 12 of any friendly Leviathans. Now remember, you can take a trait to make that 15 as well. In addition, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Namarti units that target any enemy units wholly within 12 of any friendly Leviathans. Now that's a huge deal. If you just swarm this guy with Namarti, they're going to have a 4+ save and also be +1 to hit. So if you've got the auras from the Eidolon and the, which is an 18-inch bubble, and a Leviathan in play there, you're 2s and 2s with 3 attacks each against one wound models for your Namarti, which is pretty bananas. And you're also 3s and 3s potentially for their bows and arrows. And then we got a Warscroll Battalion, the Bloodsurf Hunt. This is for your special Kellyan King, Scythus Nemitar. He's got to include 1 to Kellyan King and 1 to 2 Alpex units. You get +1 to hit rolls for attacks made by barbed hooks and blades by Alpex units wholly within 12 of the King from the same battalion. In addition, roll a dice before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to the King. If they're within 3 inches of any Alpexes, on a 2+, you allocate that wound or mortal wound to one of those units instead. And then command trait, you automatically have the Lord of Storm and Sea command trait from Battlecome Idoneth Deepkin with that special character. And that's going to cost you 120 points. Now the Kellyan Leviathan's gone to 340, and both the Eidolons are 330, which is not the worst thing in the world. But not behemoths still just leaders. And we're on to the last one, the Idolators. So it's a new legion of chaos to have your Slaves of Darkness be from. And it's basically cultists and priests. So Blessed to Chaos, add +1 to prayer rolls for Idolator priests. In addition, units in your army with the priest keyword have the leader battlefield roll. So any priests become leaders. And Panoply of Ruin, Idolator cultist units have the battle line battlefield roll. So all the cultists in the Slaves book become battle line, which means all the different characters from Warcry, or warbands from Warcry. In addition, if you make a charge roll for an Idolator's cultist unit and the lowest dice, change the lowest dice roll to a 6. If you roll a double, change one of them to 6. Oh my god. So your low die becomes 6? That's madness. These guys will charge like crazy. Idolator Lords, you can upgrade 1 Chaos Chariot or Gorby's Chariot with only 1 model in your army to be an Idolator Lord. If you do so, the unit gains the Idolator Lord, Hero, and Priest keywords, which means they get +1 to their prayer rolls. And they're an Exalted Charioteer automatically, even though the unit only has 1 model. And you must give it one of the following marks: Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slaanesh, or Undivided. An Idolator Lord knows the prayers, Idolator prayer table, and corresponds to their Mark of Chaos keyword, and they automatically know Destroy the False Idols. And Desecrate. So add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by Idolator models that target a priest. In addition, you can use the following command ability. Desecrate, you can use this command ability in your hero phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Idolator's unit that's wholly within 12 of a friendly Idolator's Lord, and within 12 of a train feature. Then roll a die. If the roll is greater than the number of enemy models within 3 of the train feature, that train feature is desecrated. Scenery units for a desecrated train feature do not apply for the rest of the battle. So you can desecrate like a Loon Shrine, you can desecrate the Sunken Shipwreck, you can desecrate anybody's train feature, and you just don't get any special rolls for it at all for the rest of the game. Yeah, that's pretty great. So if there's no enemy models within 3 inches of it, it's just desecrated, and you turn off its abilities. So then you got command traits, Zealots of the Ruinous Faith, so Idolator Priests only. You get +2 wounds, -1 bravery within 6, add or subtract 2 the result of Eye of the Gods. Fiery Order, you can chant 2 prayers instead of 1. And then Bane of the False Idols, once per hero phase, you can use Desecrate command ability without spending a command point to blow up a piece of terrain. Blowing up your Sylvaneth Wildwoods is a huge deal. And then Smite the End Leader, add 2 to the attack characteristic of the general's melee weapons. And then Idolator's Prayers for the Lord only, Blessing of Khorne. If you're chanting it successfully, pick a friendly Khorne unit within 12 and roll a die. On a 1 to 2, it's not answered. On a 3+, reroll the hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by that unit until the next hero phase. So reroll melee. Tzeentch is 3+, reroll save rolls. Blessing of Nurgle is 3+, reroll wound rolls. Blessing of Slaanesh is 3+, reroll charge rolls. And Blessing of Chaos Undivided, heal D3 wounds, which is pretty cool. And their Warscroll battalion is Gresh's Iron Reapers. It's an Idolated Lord, so on a single unit of 1 Chariot or Gorby's Chariot, and then 2 Gorby's Chariots units individually. All units from the battalion must have the Idolator's undivided keywords. The Idolated Lord is a unique named character, and it's the Soul Butcher. The Chaos Great Blade used by the Idolator Lord from this battalion has an attack characteristic of 4 instead of 2, and a damage characteristic of D3 instead of 2. In addition, if you roll a 6 to hit unmodified, it does D3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. So 4d6 mortal wound exploding attacks. And then command trait, Profane Oratory. At the start of the command phase, you can pick a friendly Slaves Darkness unit wholly within 18 inches of the general. Add 1 of the hit rolls for attacks made by that unit you picked until the end of the phase. So it's pretty cool. +1 to hit, and then 4 chances at that sweet 6 to give D3 mortal wounds. And that's it. His Warscroll battalion is going to be 140 points to get an extra artifact, and then this add increased stat line basically for your charioteer. And that's it. That's Morathi, Broken Realms. So I'm excited about this. I like them taking a look at units you don't use a lot and kind of hot fixing and patching the game as they go. I like the storyline of Morathi ascending to godhood. I think it's a cool gimmick for her model being of increased value. And I'm sure excited to play my Idoneth Deepkin coming up in the future, so I'm going to try and play some games with them. I don't know if I'll try out the Idolators just now, but I'll definitely try out my Stormcast using these rules and try out my Daughters of Khaine using these rules. Tell me below who you think I should fight with them. So anyway, big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more of this in the future. Thanks, not Mash. Have a good day. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below so you get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirts, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Deathray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.